So a lot of them think that, well, I'm going to build a business for a month or 2 months or a week or 2 weeks, and I can just put off family. But then they get into building a business and they realize that building the business is like a decade-long project.
I can see the whole wide world with these two eyes, and I can be whoever I want to be, 'cause it's my life.
Hi, thanks for joining us for another episode of Ask Spurrell CPA. Today, as the Edmonton business consultant, we're talking about how balancing family life and entrepreneurship. Again, as the Edmonton business consultant, we're talking about balancing family life and entrepreneurship. I have May here with me today. May, have what's your experience with some of these startups? Are they a little bit surprised when they come in for their first consults?
Yes, they are. They're so surprised in the fact that they're starting a new business and all of a sudden they're paying this amount of taxes. They're overwhelmed and like, wait, why? And then as they don't understand it, they rethink if they should maintain the business and should not. They need to understand that if once you start the business, there's so many commitments that you need to. But to be successful, there's many things that you can do as long as you stay focused on, getting that balance, making sure that you're not spending too much time on something so the other one doesn't get affected. Just that balance, it really is important. Yeah,
people are normally, I agree wholeheartedly, people are normally overwhelmed with the number of things happening. They don't realize that all of the other ancillary things in the business that come up that they thought it was just about the core business, right? So the quote that we have here today is a Michael Gerber quote, author of the E-Myth, and he says, most people today are not getting what they want, not from their jobs, not from their families, not from their religion, not from their government, and most important, not from themselves. Something is missing in most of our lives. Part of what's missing is purpose, values, worthwhile standards against which our lives can be measured. Part of what's missing is a game worth playing. And the statistic that we have here, Real Business, it says, it's from Real Business, and it says entrepreneurs will work on average 63% more than employees in the same industry. And the story that we have here is business owners, they're not prepared for the fact that their family life, it will affect your business, and vice versa. The family life will affect the business, and the business will affect the family life. May, what are the questions that these business owners should be asking?
The first one is working longer hours normally a requirement in early stage of business?
Yeah. So most business owners, they don't really realize that. And it's probably one of the biggest mistakes that early stage entrepreneurs make is they think I'm going to get into business for myself because I didn't like my 40 hours a week and I think I can get 20 hours a week if I start my own business. It's just one of the lies that I think have been told about entrepreneurship is most successful businesses are successful because they put in a significant amount of time, the sweat equity, if you will, of extra time that they put in over and above the time that they would have put in on a regular job.
Do most entrepreneurs underestimate how many years long hours are required? Yeah,
most of them dramatically. They've seen too many episodes of Shark Tank, and they see businesses that start, and all of a sudden they have this exit strategy or this investment or this huge growth in revenue. And although that happens, that is the exception, not the norm. We talked about it before that most businesses that will ever be sold, it took 10 years or more to get to that point. So more than half of the businesses that ever get sold, it takes more than 10 years. And 65% take more than 5 years. Like it's not a matter of weeks or months that you're going to put in extra hours. It's normally a matter of years that you're going to put in extra hours before this business has value onto itself that's separate from your efforts in the business.
Is it practical that most entrepreneurs can put off family while building a business?
Yeah, so a lot of them think that, well, I'm going to build a business for a month or 2 months or a week or 2 weeks, and I can just put off family. But then they get into building a business and they realize that building the business is like a decade-long project. And, not a lot of people are going to put off their family from the age of 35 to 45 or 30 to 40. It is a long, arduous process. So, having the strategy of, although some people will do that, they'll just say, I'm going to build my business and completely put off the family. For a lot of people, that's just not practical. And that's just not, they can have that. They can have that family and business life too. They just have to understand the dynamics of it and understand that you can't just simply put off the family for a couple months and this will get better. Because a lot of times they do that and then they never double back to the family obligations, or they never really put enough effort to the business, and one of them fails. So you have to find a way to satisfy both.
Why is 168 the most important number to an entrepreneur?
So the entrepreneur who has $1 million to start their business, and the entrepreneur who has no money is going to completely bootstrap the business. They all have 168 hours in the week. And when it comes to family, it doesn't matter how much money you have. They're all vying for that 168 hours in the week, as well as your business. So it's the main limiting factor in any business.
Would you recommend a realistic plan to do both instead of ignoring one?
Yeah, because of the time involved here. I mean, it's not like, we shouldn't make entrepreneurship something that you can't do. You can only do if you're willing to completely forego a family for 10 years. It doesn't have to be that way, right? But at the same time, you need that realistic plan in place that you can do both simultaneously, because they both take very long to do. You want to raise kids, they're going to be around for at least 18 years. You want to raise a business, it's going to be around for like at least 10 years. You got to think about it like that. So trying to do one, finish one, and then start the other, that generally doesn't work out with most people's life plan.
How important is a rigid calendar to your family life?
So that rigid calendar is going to be extremely important to your family life, because your time is going to be so limited. Your family almost you need to plan your family events around that calendar. But if you don't, if the windows are so small, those opportunities where you can spend with your family are so small, they better be certain, or else your family will never see you. Because let's say you only have 3 hours a night. But if your family knows exactly when those 3 hours a night are, and you can spend that time with your family each and every time, now you have 3 quality hours with your family every single night before they go to bed. But if you're continually, not hitting that objective, and some nights you're coming home late, and sometimes you're not, and then you're not there for supper, you're not there for events, now it just seems it's incredibly hit or miss. So that rigid calendar is going to help you maximize the time that you can spend with the family, make sure it's real quality time, and then people start getting their needs met that way.
Why is it important to have all requirements of your business on your calendar?
You don't want to get into the scenario where now you do have this family time, you have family time blocked out, but now you're checking your email, you're doing up a proposal, you're dealing with an HR issue. You're not really present in that family time. So if you don't have every item on your calendar, on your business calendar of all the things you have to do, you're probably going to end up doing them in your family time. And now your family is not going to be too happy with you, because you're already spending a reduced amount of time with them, and the time that you are spending with them tends not to be quality time because you're distracted.
Do most people get into entrepreneurship to be more disciplined?
Most people probably don't get into entrepreneurship to be more disciplined. They actually think getting into entrepreneurship is a way to, slack off on the discipline. The way to, I can just come into work whenever I want. If I want to not do something this day, I can come in later and stay later. If I don't do it this week, I can do it next week. And that's how they get behind, right? But a lot of people go into entrepreneurship because they were tired of the rigidity that came with employment, and then they step into entrepreneurship thinking they can be less rigid, and really, they need to be more rigid, especially in an early stage business, because it's that much more vulnerable than probably the established employer that they were with before.
And how does discipline equal freedom?
That discipline will equal freedom, because if you find that recipe for success that works over and over and over again, now you can start to build things like your calendar. You can start to build things like your processes that are just better than doing it off the cuff. It makes you more efficient. You can get that. You think about that calendar. If you can block everything into a calendar, now when you're done that calendar, you can actually go home and you're completely done. You can spend that time with your family. You think about your processes in your business. If you're trying to do it off the cuff all the time, you'll only be so good. But if you continually work on a process for doing any sort of task, you'll perfect it. You'll get better at it. You'll get more traction from that. There'll be more money coming in because of that. Then you will be able to hire more people to help you with the tasks, and then you can take more time off. So eventually, people get into it thinking that the freedom starts when they start the business, you know, their level of freedom is going to go down when they start the business, with the expectation that if they put extra discipline in, that level of freedom can go up, you know, after they put their time in.
And are there things you can give up instead of family time when running a business?
I think there's a lot of things that people can give up on. They don't think about it. You know, they think, oh, 3 hours a night with my family, that's impossible. But then you truly dissect what they're actually doing with their time. And, you know, maybe they're spending the time, you know, cleaning the house. I mean, you can pay someone to clean your house. You can't pay someone to spend quality time with their children. You can, you know, maybe you liked watching Game of Thrones before. It's not, you don't have to choose between family and your business. You can just say, hey, I like Game of Thrones, but I like my business and my family more. You know, these two things are more important than me. Hey, guess what? I'm no longer watching the average of 5.3 hours of television every night. It's shocking how much time, you know, people spend on tasks that really, you know, they aren't that important. You know, they're not getting what they want in life because they're, you know, it's not because, you know, they can't start the business. It's because there's usually a lot of time that they're spending on things that are further down in their list of priorities. You know, if they're spending time on social media, they're watching television. They have some hobbies that they kind of like, but they wouldn't like them as much as, you know, you say you're playing on a beer league hockey team. Would you rather build a business that's going to give you time freedom and financial freedom, or would you rather, you know, keep your spot on the men's league hockey team? Those are the types of choices that you have to take out. It's not, you know, thinking about, do I have to choose between business and family? There's usually other things, a lot of other things that you can take out once people really start to look critically at it. So I think that's what we have here today. Thanks so much for tuning in. As always, please hit the like and subscribe button so we can continue to deliver you tips on how to beat the odds at business. And as always, look forward to any comments that you have so we can respond back and use your input for future videos. Thanks very much.